Hey there, I'm Mark, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and it's the Bad Bunny album bomb week, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. Another week, another massive album bomb as the 2023 Billboard year winds down to close. Hopefully it'll be better. I actually haven't fully reviewed the Bad Bunny album. In my general experience, they all tend to run long and tend to be better for scattered singles rather than full projects. But it's also not the only story this week. And I'll admit I'm both kind of shocked and a little disappointed by the other story. Because it takes us to our top 10, where over 4 years late, Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift has finally reached the #1. Pretty convincingly too. She took the last of her radio momentum and paired it with a really big streaming boost and a discounted single release to get the sales and put it on top, and okay, I mean, it's a good song. It's a great song, honestly. A part of me is happy that it went to #1, and a historical blunder with the Lover release rollout was reversed. But Taylor Swift is also one of the biggest artists in the world. I don't like seeing her pull out all the gimmicks, especially when it's an old song, just to add another #1 to the pile. She shouldn't have to do this, that's my point. Now, she did overtake Paint the Town Red by Doja Cat at #2, which had a rather uneven radio week, even as its streaming was quite strong, but again, she just did not have that added sales margin. And right behind her is Snooze by SZA at #3. The streaming got a bit of a boost, but with this sitting on top on stable radio, it's not really going anywhere right now. Then we saw I Don't Give a Fuck by Drake and Yeet fall back to #4. Yes, I know the Yeet fans were really fighting for this one to get traction, and it dominates streaming, but it didn't really get much more, mostly because radio was nowhere to be seen with this. Then we got our first new arrival, Monaco by Bad Bunny at #5. Chalk this one up to streaming, no surprises, it's pretty much all it's got. It's gonna fall back pretty soon. But right behind it is I Remember Everything by Zach Bryan and Casey Musgraves, returning to #6. Again, radio is still not getting on board, but I think with streaming this strong and consistent, it's hard to care. Maybe they don't need radio. Instead, we got Fast Car by Luke Combs at #7, which does have the radio, but it's definitely on the downswing. I don't think its streaming is gonna catch up. It had its chance. Then we got Drake again with First Person Shooter, with J. Cole falling off the #1 down to #8. Again, predominantly on streaming, although this did get shipped to radio, and I can't help but feel it's going to struggle without having a strong hook. But holding up the rear, we got 2 Morgan Wallen songs. Last Night at #9, because while the radio is trying to get rid of it, the streaming is still there, and Thinking About Me re-entering at #10. Not quite the original peak, but it's on the radio upswing, and streaming has just been slow to catch up. In other words, we're probably not getting rid of this anytime soon. Yippee. Now this takes us to our losers and dropouts, and given that it's our second album bomb week in a row, and most of Drake's album bomb didn't fully leave, this is where you start seeing the more noticeable and interesting exits. All the more telling in the last weeks of tracking of this Billboard year. It's really down to the wire. Now the biggest of our dropouts is probably 7 by Jungkook and Eladio, although I'm almost certain that it's clinched its year-end list spot already, but getting knocked short, we got Telekinesis by Travis Scott, Future, and SZA, and Deli by Ice Spice, and Tourniquet by Zach Bryan, and Mi Ex Tenía Razón by Karol G. And in the best news, at least for me, Popular by The Weeknd, Playboi Carti, and Madonna. Now, as expected, Drake is the biggest loser this week, so let's get through all that first. Virginia Beach at 15, Slime You Out with SZA at 21, Gently with Bad Bunny at 49, Calling For You with 21 Savage at 56, Daylight at 60, 8 AM in Charlotte at 63, What Would Pluto Do at 66, Fear of Heights at 68, 7969 Santa at 81, Members Only with Party Next Door at 82, Bahamas Promises at 84, Drew Picasso at 85, Tried Our Best at 86, Amen with Tizo Touchdown at 88, All the Parties at 89 with Chief Keef, and Another Late Night with Lil Yachty at 95. But Drake was not the only loser. For instance, off the debut, Wild Ones by Jesse Murph and Jelly Roll just tanked down to 76, and the rest are following continued losses from last week, so it just looks like the momentum is sputtered out. Everything I Love by Morgan Wallen's at 96, it's probably got its year-end list spot for 2023 secure, whereas Hey Driver by Zach Bryan and the Warren Treaty fell short at 87, La La by Mike Towers hit 91, Turks and Caicos by Rod Wave and 21 Savage hit 98, and Truck Bed by Hardy fell to 100. They're all gonna fall well short. Outside of those, Get 'Em Back by Olivia Rodrigo is just not picking up traction at 79. 3D by Jungkook and Jack Harlow hit 93, and honestly, I think it probably deserves a bit better. Something that I'm not exactly inclined to say for Ski Yee by Sexy Red at 94, or Better Place by NSYNC at 99. Now for our returns and gains. It's an odd week. Let's deal with Bad Bunny first. Where She Goes returned to 54, probably sealed its year-end list spot, and Un Preview got a nice boost up to 47. But what's interesting to note here is that our gains, they're all concentrated in the upper half of the Hot 100 because Drake saw a lot of big losses, and Bad Bunny did not land enough songs up there in order to hold position. Now, this does allow some great songs to capitalize, and given that they didn't lose much last week, we saw big gains for My Love, Mine All Mine by Mitski at 35, and Water by Tyla at 46. And I'm not going to complain that Dial Drunk by Noah Khan and Post Malone shot back to 33 to seal its year-end list position, or that Antihero by Taylor Swift is holding on at 25. It's not going recurrent yet. That being said, when you look at what saw gains as an indictment of this year, man, it's painfully uneven. Starting with Jelly Roll having Saved Me with Lainey Wilson at 37 and Need a Favor at 23. Then there's All My Life with Lil Durk and J. Cole at 27. Used to Be Young by Miley Cyrus at 26. She also saw Flowers back at 18. Barbie World by Ice Spice, Nicki Minaj, and Aqua at 19. Greedy by Tate McRae at 17. Dance the Night by Dua Lipa at 13. Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo at 12. And Fuck You Mean by Gunna at 11. Now, I understand it's only a late year snapshot of what were hits in 2023. It's a pretty rough list. All I'm saying. But again, we are absolutely in album bomb territory thanks to Bad Bunny with 19 new songs charted, but thankfully a lot less of them in the top 20, so not counting the best nor worst, and outside of the top 20, apologies again for my bad Spanish in advance. Acho PR with Arcangel, De La Ghetto, and Nengo Flow at 83, Thunder E Lightning with Eladio Carrion at 80, Vuelve Candy B at 70, No Me Quiero Casar at 65, Mercedes Carota with YOVNGCHIMI at 57, Vu 787 at 53, Gracias por Nada at 52, Seda with Bryant Myers at 38, Baby Nueva at 34, Telefono Nuevo with Luar La Lel at 32, Cybertruck at 30, Mr. October at 28, and Nadisade at 22. Okay, that's a lot, so let's get to our new arrivals, and again, we aren't starting with Bad Bunny or the album bomb. Number 92, Worth It by Offset and Don Toliver.
It ain't nobody can do it like you, yeah, nah, nah. Ooh, I need everything cool in the coupe like I.
It's actually quite funny that the only songs that aren't from Bad Bunny this week are from Offset and that new project, which, I'll admit, I also haven't sought that out. I've never been wowed by solo efforts from Migos, and both of those debuts, they come with guest stars and they're early on the album. So here, I'm not sure what I was expecting, but I actually dig this a decent bit. The chunky bass line and softer guitar around the chalky but jingling percussion, it's a nice touch, and it pushes Offset into a more melodic lane that works pretty well alongside his better flow, and Don Toliver's hook is really strong. Now, I don't exactly love the content. There's this paranoid edge back and forth with this girl, the open question whether or not she's worth all of his attention, and the mistrustful edge adds a vibe that doesn't exactly fit well with all the flexing. I don't know, the atmosphere is moody, but the sour energy doesn't complement it as well as it could. I'd still call this good, but I think it should be better. Number 78, Baticano by Bad Bunny. One thing you'll notice about this Bad Bunny album is just how dark it is. Not just in how much Bad Bunny sounds kind of angry and miserable across the whole thing, which makes the length truly tiresome, but also how the synth tones and the heavier grooves are intended to create a much more nocturnal trap vibe. But I think this is the only song where the undertones become truly hellish, and I mean that as a compliment. That chilly synth line, the scuzzy reverb enhancing that very haunted feel, the spare low end, the dirty trap switch-ups that never dominate the song, and then Bad Bunny fully sinking into all the debauchery in the content. This is blackout dance music intended to fuck to get nasty, where the go too far explicit side begins working to his advantage, especially as the biblical guilt begins to sink in at the very end. It reminds me of The Weeknd at his very darkest, and again, That's a compliment for this sort of vibe. If more of the album had been in this lane with this texture, especially around October, more than the literal song called Mr. October that was trying to cultivate some of this, I'd probably like the album a lot more. Cause this is really good. Number 61, Los Pits by Bad Bunny. Funnily enough, I thought this was the worst song on the album even before I saw the weird sub being thrown at Shakira of all people. The synth and the warp sample sounds like it's off-key and dying. A major issue with a lot of the melodies across this album, they're just really ugly and accentuate this unpleasant, petty vibe. Then the clunky snap beat gives Bad Bunny nothing to really work with, and he sounds about as lazy as possible here, where he even mentions that he could be doing more with deeper themes, but that doesn't really bring in the money. And I might have to challenge him in that. I'm not sure I buy it. But my god, he sounds miserable doing this. Where all the flexing just picks up this noxious tone. Where all the preening horniness has this dismissive angle. Where he's confident he's just gonna get everything he wants. And that makes him a lot less likable even before he takes a shot at Shakira. Implying that while men cry, they keep cashing it in. A flip of that Shakira line from this year on the Bizarre Rap song, where she responded by actually challenging him to make music with her. Now that I can imagine could be really good, unless it's of a tone like this. Cause this really sucks. Skip it. Number 48, Say My Grace by Offset featuring Travis Scott.
I just stuffed my pockets in my face. Okay, let's have a debate. We talking about popping, I promise I'm feeling the way. I took the bodies up out of my closet, I buried them deep and they still in the way.
Now here's the second Offset song, this time with Travis stepping in for the assist, probably why the trap percussion is so sharp. In order to back up the grand, borderline symphonic orchestration, the production here is legit impressive. There's bombast here to sell lines where both Offset and Travis mentioning Takeoff's passing. You'd think they would use that to get to something real and dramatic, and I can't say this does. Offset seems to be focusing on systemic violence until you get complaints about him getting cancelled if he speaks his mind before all the threats and the brand name porn show up. Then Travis Scott's hedonism is still just really flimsy. There's just not much worth caring about from him. And when you have a hook that's all about ghosts from your past getting in the way of you eating now, I mean, there could have been so much more to sell this, especially with production that sounds this potent. It's fine, I guess. I just wanted to like this more. Number 24, Hibiki by Bad Bunny and Mora. Okay, comfortably my favorite song on the album, mostly because it actually has a fucking pulse. Admittedly, I wasn't that fond of that contorted melody that opens up the track, but when it gets subsumed into the mix and Mora comes in alongside the pulsating beat and the percussion switch-ups, even with that weird trap flip midway through Bad Bunny's verse that lasts about one line, there's a little bit more swing and anthemic punch to this. And yeah, a lot of it's just a bunch of horny debauchery for the club, but Bad Bunny at least sounds more engaged, and I can imagine somebody actually having a good time with this, even if I think it's a far cry from the highest energy jams that Bad Bunny has released before on previous albums. So yeah, I think this is solid. No idea if it's gonna last, but I'll take it if I can. Number 20, Perro Negro by Bad Bunny and Fide. Okay, I think I get why this one broke this high, despite being nestled very deep in the track list, and not just because I generally like Fide on the song. Yeah, it feels like a stock reggaeton knock, admittedly we're not getting many of those on the album, but the beat feels punchier, picks up a rougher texture amidst the murky wells of synth, and I think the hook's pretty decent. Granted, it's more of a mechanism for Bad Bunny just to go all in on this girl who's just dumped her boyfriend, to the point of wanting to demand she tell her dad he wants him as a father-in-law, that he wants to get her pregnant, and that she's got a face like a pretty pussy. Charming. Now, Fide thankfully is a little bit more restrained in his entreaties. He does have the final word here, but I really get the feeling this is coasting in a lot of familiar reggaeton grooves. I just can't call it a favorite. I wish I liked it more. Number 14, Fina by Bad Bunny and Young Miko.
Y las más putas son las más finas.
So the last time I was talking about young Miko was when she was actually backing up Fide, funnily enough. But now with Bad Bunny bringing her on board for another whirring slice of Latin trap with that oily sample and the bass that clips the edges of the mix, and look, I'm sorry. While young Miko can complement Bad Bunny's energy with her own desire to seduce this girl, and she blends pretty well into the Tego Calderon interpretation, she's just so deadpan that Bad Bunny just completely steamrollers the rest of the song with his own horn dog energy. Maybe it's just how the sample feels weirdly ugly alongside all of this, or how the song just kind of runs out of gas by the time that really sloppy refrain comes around. Yeah, I didn't care for this either. I think it's pretty bad. Next. And finally, number 5, Monaco by Bad Bunny.
Primero llegó Betapen, después llegó Checo. Si Pablo me viera dirá que soy un berraco. Usted hablando mierdillo, los míos por Monaco.
I'm a little surprised that this was the Bad Bunny song that ended up being pushed and charting the highest with the video. Yeah, part of it is being placed this early on the album, but the oily mixing alongside the trap percussion that swamps out the low end against the more classical melodic sample produces this really sour clash of tones. And yes, while that fits the content, which is Bad Bunny flexing on everyone, down to dissing rappers who become podcasters, and then bragging about everyone he now rubs shoulders with, the vibe just eventually starts curdling, especially juxtaposed with that sample of an old Charles Aznavour song from the mid-60s about a man who wasted his youth on a lot of fleeting pleasures. And I don't think Bad Bunny subverts the track and goes in that added depth as well as he thinks he does. Now, I don't think it's bad. I certainly appreciate the bombast of it all, but it's not exactly as fun as I was hoping. Might as well be the story of this Bad Bunny album, to be honest. It's just kind of hit or miss. So anyway, that is our week. The worst is very easy. Both are from Bad Bunny, with Los Pits getting the absolute worst for the week, and Fina with young Miko getting the dishonorable mention. I just do not get the appeal with her. The song isn't very good either way. Now, the best, it's more interesting. Hibiki with Mora is actually going to tie for the top spot with Worth It by Offset and Don Toliver. And Baticano is taking the honorable mention. I actually think that song's really cool. Now, next week, it's going to be a bit of a lull before Taylor Swift comes back with 1989 Taylor's version running over everything. But we'll actually have to see what that looks like. It's going to be fascinating. Stay tuned. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.